Hey, Tanya TKO here, and I wanted to talk with some of you pro-lifers and some of you pro-choicers out there. And it's always a very tricky situation when you start talking about the big abortion issue. I have a few different ideas that I want to express, so hear me out. First, I want to know, does the right to life equal a right to strife? And what I mean by that is I'm kind of wondering, right? Let's say there's a situation that a person is in and they know that it's not conducive to having a child. You know, I'm not really sure how many of you out there are having intercourse with people and you know that long term that this person being in your life would not be a good thing. If there's a pregnancy that ensues from that situation, what are you going to do? I know that it is every mother's duty or even every parent's duty to make sure or ensure the longevity and the livelihood of their children. So we all know that if you approach a cub, a baby of anything out in the wild, if the mother is near, you're going to have a fight on your hands. And I really haven't seen it balance out in nature to be that case with the male of the species. Now humans are a little bit different, but let me just evolve that thought a little bit more. Now with women, human females also have this instinct to want to protect their children, and I don't know if it's encoded in her DNA or if it's in her best interest or to protect their young. If there is a woman who knows that she's going to be bringing a child into a very, very bad situation, maybe it could be poverty, an abusive man, her not being ready, just an overall bad situation to bring the child in. Is it her responsibility, in terms of pro-choice and pro-life, is it that mother's duty to make the decision for the betterment of her child, whether or not she wants to bring a child into this situation? Now that's one point I wanted to bring up, and let's bring it over to the fathers. There are some men out there whose rights are stifled when it comes to the life of their child, whether or not their child will even be born. And in this society and many different societies across the world, the male point of view is not weighed, because you know they say it's the woman's body, it's this, that, and the other, right? But it's also that man's offspring as well. So there are some men out there who are pro-life, and if it's their offspring, they want that child to be born, right? But that child is going to be harbored in somebody else's body. Is a woman's choice now, but there may be a day in the future where men are used to vote on whether or not the child is born or not, right? But for now, I wanted to ask some of you men out there, the person that you're sleeping with, do you know whether this is a pro-choicer or pro-lifer? Do you know if this is a woman who believes in abortion? Do you know if this is a woman who's ready to have a child? Or maybe she's ready to have a child but just not ready to have your child. I know that talking about babies and all of that other stuff is kind of a turnoff, but this may be something that you guys need to talk about before you even start having sex, or after you've started having sex, or even after you watch this video. Go talk to your partner and find out if your partner is a pro-lifer or pro-choicer, because you could find yourself in a situation where you are with a person whose opinion is opposite to yours. You may be a pro-choicer and you may not want to have that child, and you're having sex with a pro-lifer. And this goes for women as well, because you can find yourself in a very awkward predicament if you do not want to have a child and that man wants you to have that baby. I mean, it's a very touchy situation, and I want to hear back from you guys. I want to hear from the pro-choicers, the pro-lifers. Are you in a situation where you found out what your mate is thinking? You do realize that whoever it is that you're having sex with, there could be a slip-up where a pregnancy can ensue. Because we know that there are a lot of unwanted children out there in the world. Is the woman doing a duty to that child to make sure that she does not bring that child into a bad situation? And on a last note, one thing that I did want to bring up is, for some underprivileged people, or for some people who have a lot of children, right, you know, we talk about them being irresponsible. But in my opinion, I find them to be courageous, because there are some people, they realize that their situation is not perfect, but they go ahead with God's speed, and they realize that this life was bestowed upon them as a blessing, so to speak, and they go through with that pregnancy. On the other hand, there are some people who are in certain positions who do not have children because they've had abortions, and no one knows whether or not a person has had an abortion or not, but they see where this person is, and they may consider this person to be responsible or to have done, the right choices in their life, only because there's no telltale sign of their indiscretions or their premarital sex or some of their mistakes or choices, whatever the case may be. There's no telltale sign, like a baby, for example, to prove that yes, this person was careless. So in terms of people who are at a position where they don't have children, we don't really know whether or not they've had abortions, and that was something that aided in them being able to achieve the status that they've achieved. Whereas on the other hand, you see a person who has had a child maybe in their teenage years or early 20s or whatever the case may be, who have had a child early, wasn't ready for the child, and we call them the irresponsible ones. But who is the responsible one? The one who aborts the child to be able to live life and to be able to provide for a child maybe better in the future, or the person who says, listen, this was my choice and I'm going to stick with it and live by it because everything happens for a reason and I was blessed with this child. So talk to me about some of the points that I brought up. Tanya TKO. Peace.
Subscribe today. Be sure to leave a comment. Rate it now.